But an interesting note as we head into training camp, not Packers related, is Gardner Minshew, the quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars, now heading into his second year. And we remember Gardner Minshew, right? We remember Gardner from his introduction to us as an NFL player. It was the dude that looked like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. I mean, this guy had a mustache, legendary mustache for being 23 years old. And he came in and he really tore it up. And that's Jacksonville level tore it up. I think he won like 2 games in a row, and everybody was on the Gardner Minshew bandwagon, and rightfully so, because he's a quote machine. And we'll get to a quote here in a second. But Gardner Minshew was placed on the COVID-19 list for Jacksonville. And this is what he had to say to reporters earlier today about his coronavirus experience and being placed on the COVID-19 exempt list.
You know, did not contract the virus. It took one luck at me, ran the other way. It was probably in its best interest. So here we are. We're back on Tuesday, ready to roll. Excited to go play some football.
Excited to go play some football. The virus looked at me and ran the other way. Gardner Minshew, a quote machine indeed. And look, this is great because I read it wrong. I think many people are still confused on what the COVID-19 list means. That's not opting out. That's if you have the virus, if you've been exposed to the virus, whatever. So in Gardner Minshew's case, he was exposed to it, tested negative. He's good to go as of today. But this is very good for Jacksonville because if Gardner Minshew was to not play football or was to, let's say, get COVID-19 during the season while it's still happening, any guesses for who Jacksonville's backup quarterback is? Any guesses? Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon is the backup quarterback for Jacksonville. And I assume if you're a Jags fan, I don't know if any exist, but if you're a Jags fan, you'd have to see Mike Glennon. And Mike Glennon, who somehow is still in the league, I didn't even know that until today. Mike Glennon would not be replacing Uncle Rico very well. Uncle Rico lives on because the virus is afraid of him. Took one look at him, ran the other way. Unbelievable quote from Gardner Minshew. But Gardner Minshew is strictly keeping Jacksonville relevant. That's all he's doing. This guy brings energy and a look and a style. I mean, didn't he buy an RV at one point and travel across the country because that's what Gardner Minshew does? One of the most electrifying characters in today's NFL is Gardner Minshew of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Phone lines open for the next, 7 or so minutes, 877-878-7683. Would love to get your take on the Bucs loss today to the Nets, anything Packers related. We're pretty much wide open. Just give producer Kyle a call. Tell him what you want to talk about, and he'll send you through as the phone lines will remain open. So Gardner Minshew is good to go. Matthew Stafford as well has been taken off the COVID-19 list. He had a false positive. So Matthew Stafford is good to go for the Lions as well. So those are some NFL quick hits for you, if you will, as we navigate through these weird times, man. Really, really weird times in the NFL. I'd also love to get your take on the Twitter poll. How many games do you think the NFL gets through? That poll is available at Cream City Central on Twitter. Alex Cook chimes in on Twitter and says this: there is only one way the NFL season happens, and that is if they move into a bubble like the NBA. If there's any place that could do it, it would be either Dallas or Houston, Texas. Alex, I like the enthusiasm. I like the idea, but it's just not possible. It's not possible to put the NFL in a bubble. I don't care who you are, where you go, or whatever you think. You can't go to the bubble. You can't do a bubble in the NFL. You first off have 53 players, and then you add about 20 coaches. You add about a 10-person training staff. You add a GM, the front office. You're over 120 people a team. And regularly, hotels don't have a whole lot more than 120 rooms. And you'd need 32 hotels with 120 plus rooms in the same city that all follow the same. It just wouldn't work like the NBA. You have way smaller options for the NBA. And the NBA bubble, while it's been fantastically done and it fantastically entertaining, right? We're getting nonstop content from the bubble where dudes are shotgunning beers in kiddie pools. They're getting scrutinized for crossing an imaginary red line to get McDonald's. Look, as great of an idea and as great as it's worked for the NBA with no positive tests, as well as the NHL, no positive tests from them either, as they started their playoffs this past weekend, the NFL could never succeed in a bubble. They play one game a week. You have way too many people involved with each franchise. The bubble in the NFL won't work. The NFL has to go to an MLB-like setup. And how that works will be interesting to see as well. You do testing at your facility. Do you do traveling day of game, which isn't ideal? Obviously, the Packers, if they play, let's say, in Dallas or Houston, they'll fly out on Friday. They'll stay Friday night and Saturday night in Dallas or Houston and then play in Dallas or Houston on Sunday. You probably can't do that this year. So it'll be interesting to see what steps the NFL has to take as we approach the regular season within the next few weeks. But you can't do a bubble. You just can't. It's just not possible for the National Football League to do a bubble. Sorry, Alex. I like the enthusiasm. I like the idea, but you cannot do it successfully like the NBA has. And the NBA has won the last 2 weeks of sports because the bubbles work so well. You get an unbelievable amount of content. You get an unbelievable amount of great games. I mean, the opening weekend, we're now 5 days into the NBA. Every game just about has gone down to the wire or has proven some sort of high entertainment. I mean, you just saw it with Brooklyn and Milwaukee's backups. You were entertained. Your eyes were glued to the TV because it was a one-possession basketball game going down to the wire. And while the NFL can absolutely provide the great back and forth and the content on the field, they'll never be able to do it successfully in a bubble like the NBA has.